This video is about IP Fridays, my podcast about intellectual property and an invitation to the second birthday party. So I started this podcast around 2 years ago with my co-host Ken Suzanne. He is one of the associates I work with. I work with a couple of associates in the US, like other trademark and patent attorneys throughout the country. But he's one of them, and he has been a radio moderator in college. And he was really excited when I told him I was planning a podcast in English language, and so we decided to do this together. So we published our first episode of the podcast during the INTA Annual Meeting 2 years ago in Hong Kong, and really have grown a lot since then. So at the moment we have around 50,000 downloads of individual MP3 files, so people who downloaded MP3 files to listen to the MP3 files on their mobile devices or their podcast player or in their browser. And the download numbers are going up, of course. At the moment we have around 4,000 monthly downloads, so probably 4,000 people who listen to our podcast every month. The podcast is bi-weekly, so it appears every second Friday, therefore IP Fridays. So in the beginning of each episode, which is typically around 30 minutes, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, we have short questions that we answer, or news stories, or some shorter stories. And then in the end of each episode, we have an interview, and we had some really interesting interview guests so far. So we already had a judge of the Federal Court of Justice in Germany talking about the new UPC, the Unified Patent Court, or we had the INTA president on the show, or we had the General Secretary of AIPPI on the show, or Mark Lemley, professor at Stanford University, or the IP watchdog, Jean Quinn. Hi, Jean. Thank you for being on the show in the past and maybe in the future, and some other really interesting guests. So if you see this and you think you want to be on the show, you can leave a comment below the video and or write us an email. You can get my contact information also in the show notes below this video. And since our podcast will turn 2 years next week, we are inviting all our listeners to a meetup, the birthday party in Orlando, where the INTA Annual Meeting is hosted this year. You can find all the details at www.ipfridays.com/meetup. A link is in the show notes, so it's www.ipfridays.com/meetup. So if you like this video, click like, subscribe to my channel, and as always, protect your intellectual property and go make it count.